How are CMOs treating TikTok today within their teams?
They want to see all of it, review all of it, or immediately it goes up and all of a sudden maybe it wasn't perfect. Take that down. If you can make it simpler for them to have just a few things they can focus on and be able to hit those milestones, you're going to see a lot more productivity from them.
My scope continues to grow,
Of
right?
course.
And I know this is happening to every senior marketing leader out there. We've spent a lot of money building brand guidelines that make us feel, and our legal teams feel, and our CEOs feel very safe.
We're outsourcing too much, and this is a time where you have to learn it, or else how can you actually evaluate what good is?
So much data, but what does it mean?
You have to rethink your role to shift into the being that as the orchestrator, to try to operate more as an orchestrator, as a conductor of your teams versus the one who is trying to play every single part.
Hey everyone, welcome to Made for TikTok. I'm Sofia Hernandez, Global Head of Business Marketing and Commercial Partnerships here at TikTok. And today I'm speaking with Lindsey Slaby, founder of Sunday Dinner and one of the most trusted advisors to CMOs. She's known for rethinking how great work actually gets made inside brands, between teams, and across their agency networks. She's helped some of the world's most ambitious companies reshape their org design, their creative processes, and agency models to drive better outcomes. So Lindsey, hello. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having me. This is amazing. Also, that intro was great.
Well, I was going to say, I just gave a mouthful about what you do, but why don't you tell us in your words?
I think the easiest way to say it or to think about it is really that I'm the external chief of staff for CMOs, which means
Love that.
And chief of staff in the right way. You know, sometimes I think that position is a little bit more administrative, but you can think of it as someone strategically who can sit in on every meeting if the CMO can't be there.
Yep.
And most commonly, I get brought in when someone's coming in to a new org, and you get there and you're at a new company and you're sort of like, what is going on? What have we been doing? Where have we been spending money? What does the team look like? What are all of our assets? How are we organized? And while the CMO has a very big job to also create relationships, understand the team, it's nice to have someone working behind the scenes that's kind of getting deeper into the strategy and building the roadmap for where we're going to go. And that's me.
That's incredible. Can you name some of the brands
you've
partnered with?
And that's the most common scenario, which is usually someone coming into a new org. But I have been with some brands for a long time. Target, who I love.
Wow.
They're family in a way. I've been with them for over 10 years.
Okay.
I have worked with North Face. I work with Visa. Allergan Aesthetics, which is Botox, Juvederm, awesome project I've worked on for the past 2 or 3 years. Campbell's, many different clients. And I think the amazing thing is when you stay with a leader, sometimes you're selling cars one day and then they have a new job and you're like, okay, great. Now we sell coffee. Now we sell financial services. So I go with them often in their new roles. And I think that internally the teams see me as a trusted partner that they can speak with, who knows really how their new leader operates, which is helpful for them.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's a really impressive list.
Yeah.
I'm going to just jump right into a question. As you partner with this variety of brands across verticals, CMOs, maybe sometimes not CMOs, different challenges depending on what organization. As of late, what do you see being the most challenging thing for CMOs to deal with?
Ooh, that's a simple question. No. I think right now where we are, which is sort of fall, we're in a place where you've probably just finished or are finishing your annual planning. And it is a tough time to really figure out, exactly what that strategy is going to be. Mm-hmm. And probably the same amount of money, if not limited. I feel like we are struggling the most with how to have a conciseness around decisions that we're going to make and a focus, because it feels like constantly the CMO's job is changing. We have purview over so many things now. How do you dial that back and say, these are the 3, runs I think my team can put on the board this year, and stay laser focused on that and not get distracted?
Can you dive into that more? Because as a CMO myself, I feel...
Oh, good. We're having a consulting session now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, please, actually. My scope continues to grow,
of
right?
Course.
And I know this is happening to every senior marketing leader out there. Is your advice to take on additional scope, but also continue to streamline kind of what the key OKRs are going to be? Or are you advising CMOs to really kind of like streamline what their approach is and what they're focused on?
I would say with all the external factors right now, I mean, we're going to talk about AI, I'll say it now, as the first one, I'll say it. There is so much nervousness happening with your team that I think if you can make it simpler for them to have just a few things they can focus on and be able to hit those milestones, you're going to see a lot more productivity from them.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have a more focused team. So yes, scopes are broadening in a great way for CMOs. I do think they're getting a lot more, whether it's control or access to looking at product,
Definitely.
which is so important, right? I can't market something if I don't have impact on helping to shape what the product is.
Right.
So I do.
Well, and we also see marketers like So Young who have now moved into product leadership roles.
Yeah, exactly. And I do work with her team. And
okay, amazing.
Yeah, I mean, that's an amazing role for her. And now she has a marketing team underneath her that, I kind of move into consulting with who, now they have a very specific focus and they'll be trained up on that as well under her. And I think that's a huge piece as well. Figuring out there's not really a one-size-fits-all answer because it depends on if you're able to have lieutenants that you trust and are subject matter experts under you in different categories.
Love that. So you work with CMOs all over the world, and the role of the marketer has really evolved as of, let's just say, the last 5 years.
Yeah.
It's not just about creative campaigns. It's not just about shipping cases, right? What are you seeing in this evolution, and how are you consulting CMOs?
Yeah. I mean, it would be amazing if our job was about the fun part, which is campaigns and creative work and all the things we celebrate at festivals and the things my mom understands what I actually do.
Right.
But the reality is that is such a small percentage of this role right now. And it really is about thinking through the teams, the structures, the de-siloing, right, of our organization and how you're building an operating system, right? Like the playbook to me is ever changing, but it should be a way of thinking not just about the output, which is often the campaigns, but how we get to the right work. And as I was noting, my role, often I come in with a new leader and we look at what's in place. And very often there isn't a structure and a process. And maybe that's because there wasn't time for it. People had different, specific incentives they needed to sort of rush to. But if you can take a moment and pause and maybe have someone in the corner who, is helping to work for you to say, I'm going to lay down a go-to-market process, a new way of thinking about integrating technology across everything we do in the right way. I do think sometimes people come in and maybe you noticed this, it was sort of, over the past couple of years, like lots of experiments and we're going to try lots of things. To me, I would rather invest in something that we're going to be able to repeat and keep doing versus having my team spread out doing tons of experiments. I kind of feel like the time for that is over, especially as we're seeing what we can do with modern technology, which is a core function of CMOs right now.
Oh, wow. Everything you just said, my mind is spinning because I have two directions I want to go in now. I want to understand then how you think marketing teams and marketing executives should be treating innovation and investing in innovation, because I kind of associate experimentation with innovation in many cases.
Got you.
And then the other question is, as you're working in these ecosystems, especially at large enterprise companies, and the teams are so disjointed. You have a media team. You have a team that owns the brand, but a different team that owns organic, and a different team that owns paid, and then a team that owns web, but a different team that owns social. I mean, literally, this is the structure.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to go to market as one brand, one holistic brand when you're divided that way.
One of the easiest questions that is how many people does it take to upload something on TikTok? And if they're like, well, is it the brand team? Is it the performance? You're like, oh, okay, guys, no,
Sometimes
absolutely
it's the
not.
comms team who owns organic.
But you can't have that, right? Like, we're consumers. I think you just forget that we are so digitally native as people who are thinking about how we might do things in our life or learn things or consume online. And for some reason, when we put on our marketing hat at our job, we're not able to really capture that and put the customer lens through the journey. You always hear about this, right? The customer journey is broken and there's maps and things built out, but you're just really not getting to the right place. So maybe I'm being a little provocative to say that.
Please.
Experimentation, because I think when you're just experimenting with something, it feels like you don't put your all into it. You're not as invested in it, right? So you're like, oh, I just tried that over here and it didn't work, or this didn't work.
Right.
And it's
okay
to fail.
Right.
Exactly. Well, no. 2026, no. I don't really know how else to say that. It's let's actually figure out when we're thinking about innovation as a marketer, we have, first of all, marketing technology now sits under many marketing orgs, and that's new for a lot of leaders. They don't necessarily know the ins and outs of things. So for one, I love stories of, CMOs who are I built an agent this weekend in AI.
Right.
Or I figured out how to use X tool and uploaded something, or I'm using this. You have to really understand the tool to be able to do it. But in terms of experimentation, I see it as if you're setting your agenda for, the next year, that instead of thinking about all the different things we can do and all the different technologies we can play at, just go back to the top problems we need to solve or jobs to be done. Put those in front of your teams as the brief and let them run them in a consistent way across, several milestones to see where they get, versus why don't you just go play and spin up this little, that's happening a lot with AI tools. Everyone's sort of saying, okay, cool. Well, we can run a little lab with this and this and this. And of course it's not working, right? Because there are little tiny isolated moments across a company where the power of all these tools is when the marketer can really centralize things.
I like what you said about the CMO really getting kind of hands-on and playing with technology, making their own agent or whatever.
Yes, which is hard.
It's hard, but I say this a lot. I say that we're very good at being students of culture. We hire people to tell us what the trends are. But not really great at being practitioners of culture. And what I mean by that is actually immersing ourselves in the trends and making a TikTok, actually experiencing what it is to make a TikTok, right?
Of course.
Or
it's hard. Some of it's really hard.
Right. And but it's only hard
I know, when you first do it your first time.
Right? Yeah, it's hard when you first get on, but then after a few tries, you're like, oh, this isn't that bad. Do you have any advice you give when you're consulting on how to just get started?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Maybe it is just get started.
Just get started, but okay, so you create your own brand on TikTok, create a page, on any social channel, right? And start to post things and see what happens and watch the data and see if you make a tweak here, what happens and what happens.
Are you saying me, Sophia Hernandez, create my own brand?
Yes.
So if CMO wants to experiment, don't do it with Target.
Yeah.
Start with your own.
Start with your own brand.
Okay.
It could be anything, right? Especially now we can kind of create our own products, right?
Right.
Or if you have something you want to share, tips,
you're passionate, something you're passionate about, something you're really interested in.
I am really passionate about this bathroom renovation I'm doing right now.
Okay, yes, great.
So I could start sharing that, right? You can keep it small, but and you can change your name. No one has to know it's you. But if you're not in it and seeing how different things you do impact the way that the algorithm picks it up, you're not going to learn it. We're outsourcing too much. And this is a time where you have to learn it, or else how can you actually evaluate what good is, right? How can you evaluate taste or understanding why you're not getting the metrics you want? That's a thing I see all the time. You can see leaders saying well, why can't you just tell me this? I'm like, that's not the way it works.
Right.
But they don't know that because they haven't gone into it. Now, this seems easy for us to say. I know your time is probably very precious and it's hard to find times like this. But I mean, I'll be honest, with two of my clients, we have Saturday morning workshops, 9 a.m. to 10. And she's on an AI track. And we think about one question that we want to solve, and we figure out how to do it.
Oh, wow.
But that's the only time she has. And I'm a consultant. So I'm there for you, literally anytime.
That's incredible.
But yeah, it's like she has space then. It's easier. She's not like thinking about work all the time, on the weekends. And I mean, I'm not saying to advocate for working 24/7, but like if you're going to...
It's like personal development,
exactly.
like going to the gym.
And I think it's a little intimidating for senior leaders to say, I'm going to sign up for a course or I'm going to learn with my team. But what I've loved is the initiative of saying, I need to know this first. So great. I'm like, where and when? 4-hour workshop. What do you need? Where do you want to start? What do you want to do? My job is to make my clients, strong marketers and know about everything when they walk in the room so that they feel like they can have a conversation about, whatever an agency or a partner might be bringing to them.
I love the idea of a Saturday morning innovation workout.
I know it's Sunday dinner, so maybe I should change.
Sunday,
I'm all about these
Sunday evening innovation.
That seems like a wine moment, which is cool.
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Great. Let's stay on this idea of being someone who orchestrates, trusts teams, delegates. When it comes to TikTok and how, because you're working across a variety of brands, and you don't have to name any names, but how are CMOs treating TikTok today within their teams? Do they want to see every TikTok that goes out? Are they trusting teams? Who's taking on most of that work? What are you seeing across the landscape?
Okay.
I'm talking brand side.
Yeah.
And then I'd love to ask you agency as well.
Okay. Brand side is my world, and it's different. At sometimes you can think that what's being posted on TikTok is fast. It's immediate gratification. Yes. Your friends see it. Your family see it. You feel like it represents you as a brand for what's going out immediately. And I do feel like a lot of, marketing leaders, sometimes CEOs, they want to see all of it, review all of it, or immediately it goes up and all of a sudden maybe it wasn't perfect. You get to take that down, or why did this go up, or why weren't my hands on it? Mainly because you might have a board as well.
Right.
Or a CEO who might immediately see that. It's that, I don't know the best word for it, but it's
control.
It's control.
And
it's immediate,
and
right?
I get it, right? Like we have spent, and I feel like a broken record with this point, but we've spent a lot of money building brand guidelines that make us feel, and our legal teams feel, and our CEOs feel very safe, and really guide how we engage our communities, right? TikTok has created, and creators, frankly, have created a whole new expectation where there is an expectation for you to be in the conversation when it's happening. And I think there are some brands who do this well. I always mention Corey from Elf, who ran down the hall and asked her CEO to be a part of a TikTok Live because there was a conversation happening in the moment. Thousands of people were engaging, and she felt like it would really show the community how much they care and how much they listen if they could be a part of it in real time. That's not common behavior across brands. How do we get there? How do we get organizations to be a bit more open, vulnerable, and kind of put their brands in the hands of the community?
Oh, that's no problem. We're going to solve that right now. And I also want to get back to, as well, I'm going to sideline how we talk about social internally, because I think that's...
pin that. We will come back to that. Yes.
One of the things you notice about the leaders that come to mind who get it is they read the comments. They are curious.
100%.
They are constantly being fed information. They are in it. They pay attention.
They're practitioners of culture.
Exactly. And you see that with Corey. You see that with So Young. And that way they understand what the platform is designed to do, and that ability to let go of control, to see how people play with your brand in good and maybe off ways, you accept it because you're a practitioner. So I do think everyone, you need to get into it and pay more attention and make it a priority to understand this. So, if you guys have courses, lock all the CMOs in this building for a week and have them come out. It would be so helpful because I think they really have to understand how the behavior happens because, and I'm going to unpin, we still treat it like a channel.
Yep.
And you just, when you look at a spreadsheet of assets that you need for a campaign, someone says, I need 2 TikTok assets, right?
Yeah.
And it's fine if they're a cut down or a resize. I'm like, what? Absolutely not, right? We're also not thinking of it for the power that we could use it for from a media perspective or investment.
Right.
The budget, I mean, I'm not positive, but I would say that for large brands, 88% of their media spend is 100% still going to TV commercials because we can measure it.
Blows my
It's
mind.
still happening.
But also I get it. And the measurement piece is key.
Well, what you get back is like, look, I run this, brand lift, or I'm QSR, we run this, people buy our product. We don't run it or we use social, we don't see the same. Well, that's because the attribution model and the way that you've set that up
Yes.
internally isn't right. And I do think brands need to own that more. You can't outsource the measurement, especially right now, to a third party.
Right.
You have to be able to understand it. You have to be able to have a fresh MMM that doesn't take 6 months to come back to you, that doesn't have creators in it. So often
Right.
they don't even have creator content that they're tracking. So I think there's a lot of changes that need to happen. But the one thing we keep kind of circling back to is the leaders who get it are in it. They're reading it. They're understanding it. They're getting the culture.
Measurement is definitely key. And we have invested a lot in being able to show marketers that their investment is strong. We see 2 times the ROAS. We
Awesome.
are building all of our automated solutions to be able to optimize performance. I still think, though, that and you mentioned this earlier, that we are in a place where there is this very comfortable mindset around how we measure and define success.
Exactly.
I also think that's changing very quickly. I think it's on the marketer to really help their CEOs and CFOs understand that the way that we define success is evolving, right? And that's a hard thing to do, and we're definitely part of those conversations and helping to empower and enable. Are you helping CMOs do that? Like, do you have any advice for all the CMOs and VPs of marketing and brand leaders that are watching this podcast? Like, how do you how do you guide them to tell that, to help their leaders evolve?
A few things. If you go back to the scenario I was saying where I come in early with someone, right? So it's a new job. You have this amazing moment where you can analyze everything.
Yes.
And the thing is that sometimes people just don't. To get metrics, honestly, all I want as a leader is a report card. Establish 5 or 6 things, and am I getting an A in it, a D in it, a C in it, and see where the trade-offs are every month. But instead, what I get is a huge document with so many things that no one can digest or really see, and lots of numbers and CPM. You're like, what?
So much data, but what does it mean?
Exactly.
Yes.
And maybe some of those things are fundamentally incorrect. And so in this beginning moment, or if you are starting a fresh year, looking at that data and saying, what are the things you need to answer from this? Are there 3, again, I'm always like 3 things. 3 things I want to get out of this all the time. It's not about, maybe that isn't what is the ROAS, right? It's a much higher level question that you're asking.
Right.
Is this channel the right channel for me in this moment in time? What could I do better with it, et cetera? You can start kind of going down to different things. But if you can relook at the data and go back to simple conversation that you're going to be able to take to your CEO and to a boardroom for them to understand and set your teams up that way, I think you'll be able to shape the data you want. And what I'm just truly excited about now is, again, we are all these different teams and silos and organizations, and many times that data hasn't been connecting, right? We talk about social being operated by, 5, 6, 7 different groups. Now you can build this very amazing agentic layer that I think of as and again, I like to personify things. So I think of it as a person in the hallway, right? This person is constantly running up and down the hallway and checking on every door and knocking and getting data and then bringing it to you, and combining it.
Right.
The problem with where we're at now is you do say, well, it would be amazing if media and creative worked closer again, et cetera. But now you have a huge team, and that's just not the way our corporations are set up. So you want to merge it all together, but you can't. But now we have technology that I think set up the right way can really do that for us. And I imagine it as this person running down the hallway. I don't know, but it works for me.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to come back to something we decided to put a pin on earlier in this conversation.
Okay.
Social media. And I think what you wanted to talk about was just this label of social media.
It's so interesting. Someone asked me the other day, they're like, hey, do you know a good social agency we should hire? No other information. I'm like, okay, for what? Influencer, media, community management, big campaign ideas. Like, for what? And they were like, yeah, all that. And they have to be really great at building cultural franchises. There isn't an agency for that really right now because social is not a department. And I am very firm about that. You might have different opinions.
No, keep talking. I like where you're going with this.
I mean, I think you can look at it as maybe two different things, right? There's sort of community and conversation, and then there's culture, and there's brand building, and there's so many different ways that we can think about what social or what channels can do for you that it should really be thought of as something that is unified across all departments, right? Because I don't even know how to explain it, but sometimes when I look at one of my clients' TikToks and I'll take everything I see as an ad, an influencer piece, or something on their own channel and say, who did this? Who made this? Who did this? And it's always someone different, and those teams don't talk at all.
That's an incredible
and so I'm like,
insight.
this is why when I'm looking at it, it feels completely disjointed because so many different people are touching it that, you can have the conversation of brand versus performance and we split those teams, but it just doesn't. For social, if you do something amazing with a creator and you're managing that internally, right? I'm the person managing that and I want to boost it or do something of that nature, but I don't know the media team to do that. And it's going to take me 7, different people to go through to get there. It's already gone. That thing's already gone.
Totally.
And we're structured that way. And so if you could just say, listen, we're going to get rid of the social department. Everybody here has to have the same level of aptitude and knowledge about what these channels do for us as a business. And then within each, we'll just work on it together.
So as part of your consultancy, you advise marketers on which agencies they choose to partner with. I would love to understand maybe what your criteria is, how you think about advising on those partnerships. There's so much happening in the agency landscape today. Mergers, like teams are changing. The agency offering is changing. How do you advise a CMO on what agency is the right agency for them?
Everything is changing. I think the agency landscape right now is larger than I feel like it's ever been because it's not just classic agencies you're going to for work, right? You might go to a creator, you might go to an entertainment company, you might come to a media company, I might come to TikTok to do that work, I might use a technology tool. So there's so many different avenues you can sort of think of in terms of who you're going to hire to complete something. The most important thing is that we get I want to swear, but I guess I can't.
You can, yes.
The most important thing is that we get our shit together first before reaching out. Too many times you're knocking on a door and it's the wrong door. And the people behind the door, they want to be there to be able to satisfy whatever you're looking for, but oftentimes they probably aren't the right fit. And so I think what's most important for me, and anytime I'm doing that, usually I'm already embedded in the company, so I know what we're looking for. And most importantly, besides the capabilities, I understand who is going to click with our teams the right way. And that, I think, is often overlooked. There's a lot of agency search processes that feel incredibly formulaic. They feel impersonal. I hear about it a lot, but it's like they send out briefs and they just ask you to write things back to them and send some work. Is that how you're going to select anything in your life? Is that how you're going to
Right.
buy a car, meet your husband, any of these things? It just doesn't make sense. And creative work is so personal to us, and the relationship with that you have with someone, I think, gets to the best work. So we're so privileged that on the marketing side, especially with the clients that I have the privilege of working with, we're able to look at so many different portfolios. All of that work is spectacular, right?
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Nitpick one little detail here and there? We would be lucky to work with any of them. However, what it comes down to is really the relationship, and I think a lot of the back-end processes. A lot of creative firms today, they are very focused on their craft, which is amazing, but I think they forget that they're going to be partnering with a very large corporation, and for us, we really need them to be organized, buttoned up. We need, process management, et cetera. So sometimes, and I know that people don't really want to hear this, but you could probably get a B-, C+ on the creative side if it's an A on the organizational side.
Wow.
And I think, does that make sense?
It does. For me,
don't
it
wanna
does
hear
because
it.
I've spent time on both sides.
Yeah, of course.
But for those that haven't been at agencies, or maybe for those that are at agencies, just dive a little bit into why that's so important.
I mean, imagine I'm the CMO and I'm walking into a meeting and I don't know the status on a current project that's about to launch, right? Because the agency that I've hired, they don't really have a system for project management. They're not great at communications. The work they do is fantastic. But at the end of the day, I can't sacrifice that going into a room. I can't sacrifice on these pieces. I've worked on projects with some of the best creatives ever. And the work comes out and we all love it. And the CMO will be like, never again. I will never hire them again.
Yeah.
Because this process was so painful, or they were so, they didn't really understand our culture. So when I'm looking for teams, I think, yes, I love looking through a great creds deck, and I have lots of opinions on what that should be and how you present your work. But so much of it is about if we click. And if I know the other pieces of the business, which is how you operate.
Yeah. I think I've read somewhere that you say compatibility over credentials.
Yeah.
Key.
Yeah, it's funny. In a recent pitch, I asked one of the teams to present their tools and their workflow process first. And the production person and project manager were like, oh my God, it's our time to shine. They were so excited.
We're on.
We're on. And then creative at the end. And at first people were like,
Okay.
They won, of course.
Okay.
And they were super buttoned up. That is so important, right? Anything you do in life, right? You're hiring a contractor for your house. If they just are like, yeah, I'm maybe going to show up on Thursday or so, we'll let you know later, and they text you 3 hours before, it makes you feel really uncomfortable. And when you have to answer to someone else, you're just not going to risk it from that perspective. And risk is a huge thing right now for CMOs, I think.
Yes.
Technology, organization, the partners we're hiring. I mean, sometimes I don't think agencies really get how much marketers might go to bat to hire them as well. If you're a new company and you've just started, or you're a small company or a creator and you're coming into some of these larger corporations, we have to do a lot to bring you in.
Yeah.
Which means we have your back, right? We are invested.
Right.
Yeah.
I was sitting with a CMO of a luxury brand recently who actually said the best work actually has come from some of the smaller, more indie agencies that we've partnered with across the board when it comes to connecting with the right creators or influencers, when it comes to the creative work that's being produced, et cetera. But from an operations standpoint, it's just too hard to manage that ecosystem of agencies. So it's just easier to go to a holdco.
Yep.
So, I mean,
that changed a lot in the past couple of years. I think you see indies on the rise, and all agencies, to me, I look at them the same way. And it's either new, I think I see it a little bit differently, indie or a holdco. Okay, I get it. And there's different incentives, but generally that doesn't matter to me. You could be White and Kennedy's an indie agency, right? They've been around for a long time.
Right.
Sometimes I look at it as emerging and established, right?
Okay.
Because an emerging agency is a little trickier, right? You kind of wonder, like, are they making payroll?
Right.
Like, do they have an office?
Right.
Am I their first client? And you do think about all these things. I just don't know that the firms always know that understand that we're thinking about that. But I do hear, and I do think a lot of this is also on the marketer, right? Like, take time to figure out what you want and what you're going shopping for. You know, like, if you know that you're shopping for something specific, make sure that when you're talking to those firms, they line up to meet that criteria versus one over here. Sometimes I see who a brand is talking to, I'm like, never would any of these people be who I would look at in the same way, which to me is a very clear indicator that they haven't spent the time to really figure out who the right partner and fit
That's
is
fair.
for the work.
So when you hear a marketer say, I'm shopping for an agency or a partner that really gets TikTok,
Ooh, I call Crystal.
You guide them? You call Crystal, and Crystal tells you who to go to. Crystal Watler is our head of North America Integrated Marcoms here at TikTok. But yeah, what do you say? How do you help guide them?
Well, it depends what we want to do.
Okay, because I get the question too. People are like, so what agencies are really good at TikTok?
I mean, it's still... It's also like asking people, like, who's good at making a website or who's great at a TV spot. There are so many nuances to it, right? What kind of content? Is it creator-led content? Are we trying to do, more brand franchise storytelling? Is it B2B content? Like, I do think you have to get really crisp about what that is. And then when I go through in my head right now, like, who would I hire to do that? There are some larger firms that I think are great.
People are getting their notepads
out
right now.
I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say it. I mean, to me, TikTok is so nuanced. There's so many different pieces of it and ways that you're going to connect. Is it going to be all through creators? Are we doing more of, long form storytelling, which is amazing, and we want it to be more cinematic? Is it a B2B educational piece? Are we running always on at hyper speed, right? Like, we need content 24/7. Is it really a paid play? So I do think you have to get a little crisp on what you're looking to do. And then you can tell pretty specifically, from agency decks and overviews, who's great at what. I do a few things. Like, I have the professional LinkedIn account, which everyone should have, and I scan all of the people that work there, right?
Okay.
I look at all their titles.
Wow.
I do like pie charts to figure out the analysis. Well, LinkedIn does do this, but not as well. You can see like what they're hiring, where they're adding. Like, if they're adding a lot of people with a media role, you understand where they're moving to.
Yes.
If they're adding a lot of video editors, you can see.
Ooh, I love this insight inside your mind of the consultant. That's incredible.
I want to understand, like, how has there been turnover? What's happening? What are they really building internally? And you can start to see all of those signs. And then I've been doing it for a long time, so I do have a lot of insight on the firms, but I also have, like, I don't know, like a CMO bat phone of, I will send out to my community of, have you worked with these guys? Or I see Nike on there, like, reach out to someone. Did they really do this? It's a very small industry. And I will say that word of mouth, people always ask, like, how do I get on the radars of your clients? Word of mouth. I mean, which is hard, but it is about networking. It is about being present.
Maybe it's not hard if you're doing great work, right? If you're really delivering.
Yes. You also just have to have a presence, though, right? People, we seem to think, I remember when I first started working with some companies, I was like, oh, great, let's build a database of all the agency options and we'll tag them and it'll be all organized. They're like, this is like the fourth time someone's tried to do that. What happens is a brief comes in and we just sit down and go, oh, yeah, who were those people we looked at? A lot of people literally will Google TikTok agency.
Got it.
They'll either go to your page, which I know you have a lot listed of agencies.
We have a lot of partners.
Or they'll just go to Google and look for TikTok agency, or they'll go on TikTok now and search more for TikTok agency. That is how very large brands actually find their partners. So people who started buying keywords against that, brilliant.
Yep.
And I can find all I know the agencies who did it. It was super smart.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a list of ecosystem partners
Right.
that brands can tap into. We have a list of creative agency partners that are regularly working with us to stay on the pulse of the latest technology, of the latest measurement, statistics, and options
And we want that
offer.
because I want them to be connected. I want them, sometimes you want to have that team, if you're not doing it internally, that can say, oh, TikTok's testing something new. Take our brand as a guinea pig. Like, I crave that
Yeah.
sometimes, but like some of the agencies just don't have that relationship with the platforms where they can do that for you.
Yep. We kicked off our media certification last year, in fact,
Okay,
and
cool.
certified 10,000 media professionals. So we're building the ecosystem of people who know how to really lean into this platform successfully.
Do you find that those are independent when we talk about agencies, right? Are they, who are those types of people?
Some are, right, smaller, especially when it comes to creative for performance. But yeah, we have lots of holdcos who have really leaned in and
Good.
invested in really learning the ins
I like
and the
knowing
outs.
that.
Yeah. So I was having a debate recently with another marketer around the concept of in-house agencies and how that became a trend over the past few years versus external agencies. What are you seeing?
One of my favorite things to talk about, because I'm fairly opinionated about it.
Oh, great.
Okay.
Dive in.
I mean, it matters what the work is and what we're talking
Fair.
about. I feel like every brand has had an in-house agency for a very long time, right? They're the people that maybe in our world we don't see as much. They're creating brochures, slide decks. And they're huge and they're scaled and they're, more of a production arm, right? So that's existed. And sometimes I think what happened was that team was like, wait, we want to do social. We want to do advertising. We want to move over there. And sometimes that started to shift. But I feel like those were the in-house agencies that never properly took off and didn't gain the respect internally because they came from a place of a certain type of work and they were trying to move into another area. And they just weren't respected in the right way. So that evolution, I think, stopped. Then what happened was, I think a lot of marketers started saying, hey, maybe we can do ads and content and social in-house on the advertising side, more brand building work, right? So that started happening. Challenging if you don't do that at scale, because what we know about creativity, right, is that they need a lot of people around them.
Yes.
They need a very specific environment. And I don't think that brands fully were ready to invest in that level of talent internally. And that's just, I mean, I think that's kind of one of the like cold, hard truths about it, right? Agency people are also paid very well. And so then going into corporations, they weren't paying them the same amounts. You also found that the amazing thing about external agencies is external and perspective, right? And they offer amazing perspective because they work on a variety of clients and they can tap someone.
Fresh perspectives.
It's so important. And I think on that body of work, when you saw people coming in and hiring maybe big creative directors from agencies, et cetera, I would say that has stopped. Unless it's moved to a quarterback model where you have a few high-powered creative directors or ECDs who are then helping upstream to shape the work internally and curating who they bring in as partners and running the agency relationship. And in that case, I feel like you then have an advocate internally who really knows how to oversee and judge the work and the agency and how they're delivering. And that has made a huge change.
Yeah.
Where I go back and forth on, are we building it internally? Are we working externally? Is social content. And are you building a full studio to do that? Again, are you prepared to invest what it takes to do that and to do it in a wonderful way that continues to foster creativity, enrich those teams? A lot of brands are not. Some are very well suited for it, especially master brands, right? They have many different, you could look at a L'Oreal, right? Or a Target or a Walmart. I think those creative teams are thriving because they have so many different things they can work on all the time that really helps fulfill them versus maybe going back to a single brand where it's not as fulfilling.
Right.
I also would say that AI and technology are changing a lot of this. You are noticing that the systems, the operating system that we've been talking about, is being built internally. It is incredibly connected to a CDP, to all of our files, to all of the work that we've been doing. And there is a strong sense of wanting to keep that internally. So it is kind of moving things in-house in a terms of strategy, as well as creative and media on more the digital side. But I do think that, sort of the tentpole work, the hit making work, that's still going to stay outside. I am nervous that from my purview, clients, marketers are moving way faster than our agencies. And we're kind of keeping them out of the loop. That's our fault. Because we're moving so fast of these systems that we're creating that we're not telling them what we're doing. And I think they're sitting over here going like, you're the buyer, right? Yeah. What are you looking for? Should I be building all these things internally? We're like, no, we're building it. You shouldn't, because we don't want you to do things with our data.
Right.
We're modernizing, and we'll call you when we're ready. But the problem is, who are you going to call when you're ready? Because you haven't brought along the industry. So I constantly am having conversations with my friends who work in production, creative agency owners, and marketers. Yeah. And none of us are having the same conversation. Yeah. And like what I get really irritated with, to be honest, at things like Cannes, is that marketers are all set aside over here and we don't open the doors to those other groups to come in. We really need to be having more conversations. Yeah. CMOs, and it's not about pitching. It's just we're all one industry, and if it doesn't work well together, we're not going to rise together. So we have to work with our external partners to have, like, I can keep going forever and ever.
No,
to bring them to our level, right? Like, you can't just look at the marketplace and say, oh, there's nothing here that I'm looking for. That's on you as the client, I think. We need to make sure that we are helping them, enriching them. If we're building a new model and saying, listen, we actually want you to plug into all our tools now, and we're going to change the financial model and your incentive structure, like, let's do that with them. Yeah. I'm all for it.
I think there's still an opportunity. I'm hopeful. I think there's still an opportunity for creative agencies to be what they were back in the day, where they were the kind of innovative arm for a brand, right? Like
tastemaker.
Brands went to creative agencies because they wanted to know what's the latest on anything, right? How should we be thinking? Take our thinking to the next level. I think that there's still an opportunity for creative agencies to do that.
That's what we want. But there's fear right now.
There's fear, but to your point earlier too, a brand in itself cannot do that because that creative team is working on the same brand day in, day out. They start to get sucked into the very strict brand guidelines. And agencies working on a variety of things bring new, fresh perspectives. They can push because they're a partner, right? They're not part of...
people ask me all the time, do you want to come in-house? I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I want to be...
No, thank you.
No, thank you. I love being the outside perspective. And that is my job, literally, is to constantly be like, have you seen this? Did you see who did this? Yes. Do you know how to do this? And more of that from agencies needs to be in their scopes as well, right? Like we have to think of how, again, we're charging for things versus like, you have 4 campaigns to make a year. No, I need a layer of people that are curious and engaging on my behalf, because that is going to be where differentiation in this world that we're all kind of fairly nervous about going into is going to come from. And we need the best people working on that. Yep. Do I think maybe there are too many firms out there right now? Yes, I think there'll be consolidation for sure.
Yeah.
But one of the things I always think about, like, is if you can add one more headcount here at your company, who are you adding, right? You're not necessarily adding a designer.
Right.
We can outsource that and get the most amazing talent, right? Yeah. We're adding different types of things within our business, and I look at it more holistically. Yeah. It's great for us to have outside partners. It's helpful, and it's how our business operates as well from a P&L perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. I'd be hiring a big thinker, not a...
Yeah, or maybe you'd be hiring a data analyst or some of these new roles that we're looking at. And that's not to say that you're discrediting the talent that comes from there. It's just, I know I can get that as outside, right? And they're fabulous, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. All right, let me ask you one last question. If you could spark one mindset shift across the marketing landscape, right? Across marketers, what would that be? And why does it matter now?
Oh, that's a good question. With senior marketers, I think you have to rethink your role to shift into the being that as the orchestrator. And you might think that CMOs you are a CMO, already feel like that is their role. But what I notice all too often is that sometimes they're the bottleneck, actually. And you want to see everything. You want to make sure you have your hands on everything. You want to make sure. And that little, I want to make sure I see it, even just if it's passed through, it makes your team feel maybe like they aren't empowered. And it also holds things up. With the current workload that CMOs have, it's just impossible to be everywhere. So I see them much more as someone who's orchestrating different levers across their teams. One of my favorite things about senior leaders, and I kind of assume you're this way too, is that they're the first to respond on email. I literally can email a CMO of a large retail company, and within less than an hour, I always get a response back. That means a lot to me. And imagine how that feels for their team as well, versus someone who's coming in who has a mindset that kind of carries the weight of all the stress that is going on. That happens a lot with marketers as well. So one of the best things I've learned is to be responsive, to delegate to teams, and to try to operate more as an orchestrator, as a conductor of your teams versus the one who is, has their fingers and is trying to play every single part, which is hard. You got to let go.
Yeah.
Some things.
Yeah. The scope is broad. Lindsey, thank you so much for sharing your journey, for sharing all of this inspiring content, for really letting us in. I mean, you have such a purview over the industry. I'm sure everyone is taking notes furiously over the last hour, but I so appreciate you being here with us. Thanks for everyone who tuned in. If you want more of this, hit subscribe for the next episode of Made for TikTok, and we'll see you then.